Now, District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick, is giving his closing arguments in the murder trial of Robert Brooks. Let's listen in.
After 2.5 hours of listening to how this was a tragedy, let's now get back to reality, if that's okay with all of you. What's the tragedy? I'm missing the point here. We have 3 heroes in the room, ladies and gentlemen. Forgive my impertinence for indicting them for what they did. I'm sorry. I must be waiting for their award ceremony for the heroic actions of Mr. Kiefer in pepper spraying a helpless 148-pound guy who's lying on the ground and who the testimony says didn't do a thing. Oh, I'm sorry. It took him 10 seconds to get off the van. The death penalty for that? Mr. Gallagher, a babe in the woods, didn't say a thing, just doing his job. Shackling the guy who's getting his testicles pushed up to his larynx, right in front of him. And he has the temerity to stand in front of you for 90 minutes and say, he did nothing wrong, just following orders. He's such a good guy. Leg iron award for him, pepper spray award for him, and God only knows what for Mr. Kingsley, who also did nothing wrong, ripping a guy's throat off. Let's get back to reality. And I remind you that they killed him. The whole rotten, stinking, disgusting group of them. They all participated in it, and they all killed that man. You know it, and everybody in this courtroom knows it. Don't fall into the trap of analyzing minutia, who hit him hardest, which was the worst blow, who struck first. Was Anzalone worse than Kingsley? Was Kiefer worse than Gallagher? Was Gallagher worse than Trombley? They were all in it together. The Marcy Welcoming Committee, or as Mr. Lubran said, just an average indraft at Marcy. The fact is that when you look at these videos, this snuff film of a helpless prisoner, aren't you left awestruck by the community? The lack of panic, no sense of urgency by these 3 men or anyone else, the laughter, the almost calm serenity. I'm standing next to a guy dying. I'll check my watch to see if my shift is almost over. The haste to fill out a form. The guy's body hasn't even been taken out of the infirmary. And Kiefer's sitting there getting ready to doctor his form. And you can listen till the cows come home, and Judge Bauer isn't going to tell you that there's a defense to filing a false report that says I was ordered to do it. That's your name on the form, Mr. Kiefer. Not Mr. Trombley's, not Mr. Gallagher's, not Mr. Mayshaw's. It's your name on that report. And you know what the sickening irony of all this is, as I sit here and listen to this 2.5 hours of Fantasy Island. You know, I'm a great believer in providence. I do not think that we have been created by a cosmic accident. I believe in fate. And I believe that fate recorded those videos. Can you imagine what this trial would have been like? I'd still be sitting there. These guys would still be charged. But can you imagine what it would be like without those videos? We already know. Mr. Kiefer told us. All force ceased before entrance into the infirmary. That's his report. He's required to file it. And he sits here and he tells you he's not guilty of that. There would have been a whole trial of, oh yeah, he resisted, he was a maniac, he was high on K2, he was a lunatic, he had a sock and a lock, and oh my God, he slipped outside. And thank God we were able to save ourselves. We know beyond any reasonable doubt that Mr. Kiefer was involved in this up to his neck. And speaking of necks, we know that Mr. Kingsley was involved. Just look at that photo. And a few moments ago, his lawyer told you he did nothing wrong. Did nothing wrong. Mr. Gallagher, it's 9:30. Robert Brooks is dead. If he was in the Mayo Clinic, he'd still be dead. This guy's laughing. That doesn't show indifference, depravity. These were not corrections officers. They were a gang. They were a gang of murderers. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on what you heard during the summations. But I will ask you to remind yourselves about evidence, okay? Evidence. I'm not going to tell you what so-and-so was thinking, what my client was thinking, or what he really went to do, or what he wanted to do, because if I stand here till doomsday and ask Tracy to read that back, she ain't going to be able to, because there isn't any evidence of that. I didn't know till today that training was the cause. His lack of training, it was only 43 seconds. How much training do you need to join the human race? If I see a civilian, and I've seen it 1,000 times in my 40-year career as a prosecutor, if I see a civilian run into a burning building and come out and saving somebody, I don't sit down with them and say, where did you get your training for that? Because I know where they got their training for that. They got it by being a human being. Training for 43 seconds, I don't care if it's 4 seconds, I don't care if it's 43 days. The guy's been on the job for 18 years. He doesn't know that he's supposed to intervene. Isn't it funny how all of the rules that help these guys, they're experts on? But the one rule that points out that they're murderers, we barely knew about that. Don't fall for that. Did someone actually stand in front of you a few moments ago and say that Officer Farina was wiping off Robert Brooks's nose? Did I hear that? I was sitting there.
Oh, hell no.
Common sense, reality. Let's get back there, okay? Wiping his nose. And how many times did you hear, what was he supposed to do, Mr. Gallagher? There wasn't a thing he could do. There wasn't a thing he could do, good Lord. In a few moments, you're going to hear Judge Bauer discuss and define accomplice liability. The example we've used up to this point is the getaway driver versus the Uber driver. You'll hear words like intentionally aids. You won't hear Judge Bauer say, he's really got to aid him a lot. He's got to substantially aid him. It's got to be like really huge how much he aids him. He's going to tell you that if someone intentionally aids someone in what is obviously happening in front of them, then they too are responsible for that conduct. Based on what we've been listening to for 2 hours, I want to play for you 10 minutes of reality. 13 men, including these 3 defendants, murdering Robert Brooks. And I remind you that much of what happened to Robert happened before the cameras ever came on. That is obvious to any sentient human being. When Mr. Gallagher's lawyer tells you that he had no idea what had happened out in the breezeway or the walkway, take a look at Robert when he's brought in a couple of moments after he was walked right by Mr. Gallagher. A typical in-draft at Marcy.
Just a quick PSA, guys. I believe he's going to be playing some of the video that depicts Robert Brooks being murdered. So watch with caution. I'm not sure 100%, but I believe that he intends to do this from what he's saying. And I apologize for my voice. I am very sick. I have a upper respiratory infection, and I am really on my butt right now. But I had to bring this to you. So I apologize again for not being able to get on camera and talk with you guys.
Mr. Kiefer coming in with his pepper spray can, already having participated in the beating, according to the testimony of Officer Kessler. You see how concerned everyone is, how worried they are about Robert.
The jurors all have video monitors in front of them, and they're watching individually as well.
I had no idea there was anything wrong with Mr. Brooks.
I love how they
Just a
stopped
typical
it.
in-draft at Marcy.
I loved how they stopped it and actually put the officers' names who are on trial. I'm going to go back to that. So they have Kingsley. Okay, so Kingsley is here, and he's one of 3 that are on trial right now. The other 2 are Kiefer and Gallagher.
Wrong with Mr. Brooks. Just a typical in-draft at Marcy.
Let's listen.
Here it is, Mr. Gallagher's full view. They're just wiping his face, gently trying to remove the pepper spray. What could he possibly have done? Maybe rejoined the human race and told these animals to stop? No. Nope, I'll hold him down and help Farina. If that doesn't look like aid, I don't know what does. Weren't you expecting to see a violent kick from Robert based on what you heard during opening statements? His legs are barely moving. Now, let's take away the last possible line of defense that he has, his legs, and cuff them together so that Farina can stand on the chain and continue this beating.
Okay, so just so you guys know, that last feed was on their end that it got cut off, but it was important to hear. He is narrating the beating and basically the murder of Robert Brooks frame by frame here, and is narrating for the jurors exactly what the three defendants did in participating to murder Robert Brooks, to aid in the murder of Robert Brooks. Yeah, I'm feeling really horrible. Lots of congestion, head congestion, wheezing in the lungs. They put me on a Z-Pack because they didn't know if it was viral or bacterial. Z-Packs were bacterial. So I just completed that today, but it started with my last live stream, and it just progressively got worse. So between that and the cancer, it's getting the better of me, and I'm just trying to get better. So traveling 5 hours one way up to Onondaga, Oneida County Court was not a good idea for me to do. I wanted to be there. Trust me, I did.
And he stands there, Gallagher, and doesn't do a damn thing. And he stands there, Gallagher, and doesn't do a damn thing to stop this. I'd show you all of that, ladies and gentlemen, from Mr. Gallagher's body-worn camera, but coincidentally, apparently, as he went out into the cold and came back into the warmth of the infirmary, he zipped up his jacket. So I can't show you the rest of it. Nicholas Kiefer saw no evil, heard no evil, spoke no evil. He was part of the greeting committee. He strikes Robert Brooks in the arsenal for no reason at all. He pepper sprays Robert for no reason at all. He stands by and watches this occur. He follows the gang into the ER while Robert has clearly been beaten senseless. Never does a damn thing to intervene, despite multiple opportunities to do so. And he sits here today and says, I didn't do anything wrong. He even tried to go back in until he was finally ordered out. You know what I've often thought? We had 5 senses. I kept listening to this trial about how you didn't see this, you didn't see that. Are these people deaf? Do you think there was noises coming from that room that might have been indicative of the horror that was going on? And then he wrote a use of force report that he tells you isn't a crime. All force ceased. Nicholas Kiefer, guilty of murder. Matthew Gallagher, I was just following orders. I didn't know nothing. I didn't know what I could do. I had been on the job 18 years. It's still new to me. I just don't know. I tied my bats. I thought I'd get the leg irons to what? He's part of the greeting committee too. He watched what happened in the ER. How can a human being look at that? And you're charged with responsibility for protecting that guy. It's a tough job. It's a dangerous place. Yeah, that's a tough job. That's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place for Robert Brooks. He holds Robert down while Anzalone and Farina are punching the guy's penis, fracturing his testicles. He stands there and he tells you, I didn't see anything. It's a guy beating him with a shoe. He tried to convince you earlier in this trial that he saw kicking. There's no kicking. He bravely rushes out to his van. Oops. I think I'll zip up my jacket. You know why he zipped up his jacket. Everybody in this room knows why he zipped up his jacket. The next 9.5 minutes are blank. He restrains Robert to continue the assault. You've already seen that multiple times. He yanks Robert's pants off, his final act of indignity to that dying human being. And then he tries to tell you it's regulations. Yanks him off like he's treating an animal. Look at the professionalism, the sensitivity, the care that you just heard about a few moments ago. Never intervenes, never questions, never files a use of force report. Just following orders. Ordinary, good, decent people get a summons in the mail. You wind up on jury duty. Sometimes greatness is accidental. Sometimes we strive for greatness. A generation from now, your kids, your grandkids, they'll look at you and they'll say, "What did you do, Mom, Grandma, Grandpa, Dad? What did you do that was great in your life?" In a few moments, you can answer them and say, "I brought justice to a system that dehumanized a man, a simple man who did a terrible thing, but whose opportunities were only ahead of him. A man who looked around a room as he was choking to death on his own blood and undoubtedly asking himself, who is here to protect me? I was pepper sprayed for no reason. I was beaten for no reason. I was hogtied for no reason. I was choked to death. No reason." The sad, inexcusable, unthinkable answer is that no one, not one member of that gang, did a thing to help. Not Mr. Kiefer, not Mr. Gallagher, not Mr. Casey. And now, we all know what happened to Robert Brooks. When you reach your deliberations, someone look at your watch. And when you get to 31 minutes, you will have given more time to these three men than they gave to Robert Brooks' life at Marcy. Murder in the second degree. Just click it forward, Jim. Depravity, wanton disregard, indifference, manslaughter in the first degree, intent to cause serious physical injury, gang assault in the second degree, intent to cause only physical injury, causing serious physical injury, all acting in concert. The question for you is, was there a commonality of purpose? A design, not to kill. They're not charged with intending to kill. 5 times on his summation, Mr. Lubran told you that I was required to prove that his client intended to kill Mr. Brooks. 5 times. He's not charged with intending to kill Mr. Brooks. This was a gang with the express intent of dehumanizing Robert. We're not going to stand for such impertinence as failure to put your hands in your pockets. If you find that inhumanity, that depravity, which is obvious, frankly, the next question is, did the defendants aid in this dehumanization and this depravity? Mr. Kingsley? Of course he did. Mr. Kiefer? Of course he did. Mr. Gallagher? Of course he did. The three of these men, Mr. Kiefer, Mr. Kingsley, Mr. Gallagher, they were part of it. They joined it. They did it willingly. I think to one of my favorite movies, which you may or may not have seen, A Few Good Men. It's a great ensemble cast, Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson. And there's two Marines on trial. And they were on trial for killing a fellow Marine by the name of Willie Santiago. It's a great scene, cross-examination in the trial, where the Tom Cruise character gets Colonel Jessup to admit that he ordered a code red, not the phony red dot that Kiefer ordered, but a code red, which was designed to terrorize a fellow Marine who they thought was slacking off. Turns out Santiago had a medical condition. He wasn't slacking off at all. But it's a form of discipline. So the Marines go to trial, and they're feeling pretty good because they got Jessup to admit that he ordered the code red. And sure enough, they're acquitted. Private Downey, Lance Corporal Dawson. But then they're found guilty of conduct unbecoming a United States Marine. And Downey, if you remember the movie, Downey's stunned. What do you mean, guilty? We didn't do anything wrong. Downey's the shorter of the two. He's kind of a country bumpkin. We didn't do anything wrong. Colonel Jessup ordered the code red. We did nothing wrong. And then the wiser Lance Corporal Dawson says, yeah, we did. We were supposed to fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. We were supposed to fight for Willie. These three men, before they divorced themselves from the human race, were supposed to fight for Robert. And justice demands that they be held accountable for the brutality of their actions and their inactions. Nobody's charging them with failure to follow the DOC's regulation, but that's part of their state of mind. Myself and my colleagues, defense lawyers and prosecutors alike, we fight all over this country for justice in America's courtrooms. If you ask 10 lawyers to define justice, what is it? You probably get 10 different answers. But right now, today, in a Utica courtroom, I'm looking at justice. That is about to pass into your hands. Justice most certainly for these three men, and justice for Robert Brooks. And I know you have the common sense, the wisdom, the courage, the decency, to let justice ring from this courtroom, let justice ring in the canyons of Manhattan, let justice ring from the snow-capped peaks of the Adirondacks, and let justice ring in every single town and village and city in the county of Oneida. God bless you, and I thank you very much for your kind attention, and I wish you Godspeed.
Wow.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening attentively for some time now. My instructions will take a bit of time, so I'm going to give you about a 5-minute break. Let you stretch your legs. I'll continue on with my final charge when you come back. We'll take about 5 minutes.
I was waiting for an all rise for the jury, but we didn't get that. Ladies and gentlemen, that was powerful. He chose to use an analogy, which I've never heard in a closing argument. I thought it was relevant. I thought the jury was locked in on William Fitzpatrick. I thought he was emotional, professional, and clear and concise. This trial is about the murder by New York State Department of Correction prison officers, prison guards, correctional officers who were empowered to keep prisoners safe while incarcerated. And they failed to do that. They killed Robert Brooks. They murdered him as a gang altogether. 13 correction officers, former correction officers, turned into murderers on the night of December 9th, 2024. The jury is going to speak, and wouldn't it be poetic justice if they came back with this verdict in 31 minutes? I don't doubt that they will be deliberating for a period of time, but it's not going to be a long period of time. On behalf of CrimeTime with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, this has been a live broadcast of the closing arguments at the murder trial of Robert Brooks. Remember, folks, Robert Brooks was and is a human being. His family deserves better. His family deserves justice. And to all of the prisoners in the past who were either beaten or murdered at the hands of guys like this, these monsters, I hope that justice prevails for them. So on behalf of CrimeTime with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, thank you for watching. This has been live coverage of the Robert Brooks murder trial closing arguments. I didn't want to bring you the closing arguments from the defense attorneys because it was long and drawn out, and it was bullshit as far as I'm concerned. What was most important here was to hear the truth, and the district attorney in this case has the truth. Those defense attorneys do not have the truth. It was irritating, arrogant, and it was horrible to listen to. If you want to listen to it, it's out there. But this was closing arguments from the defense, from the prosecution, not the defense. Good day. I'm sick as a dog, so I'm going to go and get some rest. Peace and love from CrimeTime with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. Justice for Robert Brooks. Thank you.